The Justice Department is denying calling for Devon Archer to be jailed ahead of today's testimony. House Oversight Chair James Comer saying it's more proof the DOJ has been weaponized. Roll tape.
The letter from the Department of Justice is trying to nudge the judge to go ahead and sentence Devon Archer for something unrelated to what we're going to be talking to him about tomorrow. It's odd that it was issued on a Saturday, and it's odd that it's right before he's scheduled to come in to have an opportunity to speak in front of the House Oversight Committee and tell the American people the truth about what really went on with Burisma. So, I don't know if this is a coincidence, Maria, or if this is another example of the weaponization of the Department of Justice.
Well, Congressman Bryan Steil joins us now. He's a Republican from Wisconsin. Congressman, what was the DOJ up to over the weekend? Were they actually trying to obstruct justice, preventing Archer from speaking before the committee?
I haven't seen evidence of that, but the good news is he clearly just walked through the door moments ago, and we're going to have a transcribed interview with him to get to the facts. I think the American people deserve to know the answers to the questions he's about to be asked. I don't know the facts about the DOJ's timing of their moves, but the good news is he's going to have a transcribed interview, and we're going to get to the bottom of this for the American people.
What's the one question you want him to answer?
I think the key question here is how involved, or was the president of the United States directly involved? We clearly know the president's son was up to a whole host of very suspect business dealings. I think the question at the bottom of this is there a direct connection to the president of the United States?
Well, as you well know, Speaker McCarthy is saying he may consider impeachment inquiry in the near term. Is there enough evidence now, or do we need not only Archer's testimony, but also evidence to back that up?
I think an impeachment inquiry is needed if we don't get the compliance we need with witnesses across the board. Right now, we have Jim Comer and Jim Jordan leading the charge on oversight and judiciary, working to get the answers for the American people. Right now, we're making progress in that regard. I'd like to see us continue down that path. What we want to do is allow justice to follow the facts, not jump the shark like we saw the Democrats do in the previous Congress.
I asked this to one of your colleagues earlier in the show, but whether or not we've got all these points of reference, whether it's from Hunter Biden's laptop or individual testimony or the whistleblowers, are there enough connectors to those dots to put Joe Biden and Hunter Biden together in business dealings?
Well, that's why a transcribed interview like Mr. Archer's providing today is so absolutely essential. What we can't do is just jump to where our people's hearts are. What we have to do is actually get the facts and then allow justice to follow the facts. This transcribed interview from Mr. Archer today, I think, is an essential piece of the puzzle. And Jim Jordan and James Comer are going to continue to get the facts for the American people.
And finally, we're coming up to another election that is being clouded by another whole series of legal issues. We had that in 2016, 2020, et cetera, but never anything like this where both of the top candidates have indictments sort of hanging over their heads, potential indictments in the case of Joe Biden or actual indictments in the case of Donald Trump. So what do you make of this, and what do you think voters are going to make of it?
Well, I can tell you when I'm back home, and I was in Kenosha yesterday talking to folks who are so darn frustrated that they can't afford the things that their family needs, that they're suffering under Bidenomics and the inflation that Biden has brought across all families. They're frustrated with what's being taught in their schools, and then they're looking at how the news media covers what's going on. They're a little bit frustrated with Washington across the board. I'd love to see us shift this conversation about how we're actually going to solve the problems that the American people are suffering with, in particular, the disastrous economic policies of the Biden administration. We have to ultimately be able to walk and chew gum. We have to do that at the same time that we have to get answers for the American people as it relates to the business dealings of the president's family.
Right. But the number one issue is still the economy, kitchen table issues. That's what's driving Americans right now. Congressman, thank you. Very interesting interview. I appreciate it.